This is the Team Objection podcast for August 29th, 2019, episode 405. A different person is here. She's actually not been on the podcast very much.
Oh,
No.
I thought you were going to say ever.
Like 3-4 episodes.
Maybe 3 or 4 episodes.
It's always for reviews, though.
It's always
Pretty
for
much.
like reviews or random things.
Yuri on Ice was, I think, maybe the first one.
We did.
The Yuri on Ice debacle, as we call it.
6.
Look, it was my
5.
first time. You can't judge me.
Both Phoenix Rise? Did you do 5 too? Did we do 5 on the podcast? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
I don't think we did 5.
I think we might have reviewed Dual Destinies, but I don't think
Jeez.
Michaela was there. When we did Spirit of Justice, she was.
Actually, don't know if I was there for that either, though. I don't think I was there for that. I think I remember listening to it after the fact.
What would you have rated it?
Right now,
Think about
like
it.
350 out of
8?
10.
Probably.
Okay, all right,
It was
8.
good.
That's
I liked it.
You know our pedigree now.
Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, use that as a value-based judgment.
Yeah.
So we've inferred it, but now you can hear it straight from me. We're reviewing Fire Emblem Three Houses. It's one of the big reasons why the Switch might win this year. We'll see. We got a lot of year left, and major titles always come out in the fall, but people are loving this game. People are loving the Switch. Everybody loves Nintendo. Things are great. The Fire Emblem franchise was supposed to have been dead as recently as 7 years ago. All of a sudden, it's thriving. So you can take heart, fans of shit like Mega Man and Metroid. There's always time for a comeback. But we're going to review it today. There's going to be some spoilers here. So if you haven't played it yet, or you're at least partway through, just be warned that we might be talking about at least some things. I don't think we're going to go into major story stuff at the very end, because I haven't gotten that far.
Yeah, we can't.
But we can talk about most stuff. And if you don't want any spoilers at all, now's the time to turn it off. If not, stick around, because it's going to be pretty minor overall. So I think we need to break this into chunks. We often do reviews with little subheads and stuff. And the one I most want to talk about is characters.
Okay.
I like it.
So I think we dive into the schools and the students and the professors and all the surrounding like ancillary characters. Talk about who we like out of that, because I'm just going to put this bold statement out up front. It's not that bold. I like this cast way more than Fates, and I might even like them more than Awakening.
Well, there's so much to choose from.
There's
because
so
every
many
house
characters.
has their own set of, I think, 7 students.
7 or 8. Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of like monastery-specific characters.
Yeah.
And like some teachers who help. And then there's a huge supporting cast that doesn't necessarily fight, but is there to talk to and occupy space. Like guards that people just fell in love with.
Yeah,
I love the
there's-
gatekeepers
Yeah,
so
they're more
much.
popular than half the people in this that like you can control.
Yeah.
It's hilarious, and I love it.
So I love the characters.
Love
one
them.
of the reasons is they're much more nuanced, I feel like,
yeah.
and they're much more real. So the characters have more to them than like a single gimmick. Even the ones, Bernadetta comes to mind. She's definitely motivated, her and Marianne, by trauma that they've experienced in the past. It definitely plays into who they are, but it's not like I'm thinking of Garrus in Awakening, where he likes sweets. And that's all there is to his character. And in every support conversation, it's about how he likes sugar.
Yep.
Owain has a cursed hand and delusions of grandeur.
Yeah.
Arja is creepy and likes curses. You can go down the list. And,
Sumia is very clumsy, and she trips over everything.
Yeah.
yeah, Frederick is a goody two-shoes. I mean, you can go down the list of all of them, and there's a little bit more to each of them than just that, but it's pretty easy to paint by numbers all of them with like one defining trait. And while that's true, I guess you could describe everybody in Three Houses with one kind of main thing. There's a lot more to them than just the one. There's like 3 or 4 other little things that also make them tick.
Dedue, for example, very loyal to his retainer. Or no, he is the retainer for Dimitri. But while that comes through a lot, he also has this entire tragic history. His people were slaughtered, almost genocided, and there's a lot of racism against him. So that's more in depth than anything Awakening and certainly Fates gave us.
Raphael's a good example too of like the character who's obsessed with training trope. He's just like train, muscles, train, eat. And at first you're like, oh, okay, but he's actually not that one note. There's actually a reason that he does it. He's got some stuff in the past with his family, and so it's all to look after his little sister, and it ends up being like really sweet.
Yeah,
And
right.
like there's actually like a reason for it.
And
so.
even the main characters, like Edelgard looks like she's going to be the classic Ice Queen. who does a hard time opening up, and she's super rigid and formal. And while that's certainly at least a little piece of her, there's a lot more to her than that.
Oh yeah.
And I assume, at least from my limited interactions with them, because I didn't choose their houses, that Dimitri and Claude are the same way.
I don't know about Claude, Michaela. So we all ended up not really by planning it. It's just how it worked out. We all chose a different house.
Yep.
I will say Dimitri has what I am almost certain will be the best character arc of the entire thing.
Yeah.
Where he starts, and they hint at some darkness and more to him early on. But you kind of dismiss it because you're like, there's a JRPG, I'm sure, whatever. And then he loses his mind completely.
Yep.
I mean, he goes off
I
the
think
deep
it
end.
looks like he has the most typical like hero's journey. It almost seems like.
Kind of, but they take it in such extremes that it's still very satisfying.
Yeah.
And then you're like, will he redeem himself? I don't know. You're going to have to play it. But it's...
Yeah.
I was definitely invested in the story with him. And that's probably the first time I've said that in a Fire Emblem game. Truly invested in the story. Not a thing I do a lot in those games.
Yeah, no, like this, I love the story and the world building so much. And it's funny because, like, the story, not a ton happens in the first part, really. Like, if you really parse it down, it's like, not a ton is happening, but you get the world building and the politics, and it actually feels like a real place, and that there's real cultural dynamics and, like, how they do things. And it almost feels like Game of Thrones-y a little bit. Like, it makes Awakening look like a game for toddlers with its politics. Like, it's so simplistic in comparison to this.
That's what I tried telling people is, like, I know a Fire Emblem at this point, it's like, oh, the game with all the waifus. And, like, that's what it's known as. And I'm like, other than a couple little things, it really is a much more mature... It's probably one of the most mature, like, JRPGs I've played.
Yeah.
They're not, like... executing people, and there's not like violence, but a lot of the themes, the fact that they really do interweave politics into it is
It's interesting how Awakening has sort of tainted the perception of Fire Emblem in a way. It was phenomenal, and again, it rescued the franchise, but it also was basically waifu simulator, and then people expected that from Fates, and it was there to some extent.
Yeah.
But the plot really is a weak point of Awakening. I don't think there's really any denying that. It gets by because you like the characters a lot, because the time skip and the kids are interesting, so you don't really care about the plot as much. But I don't think there's any comparing either Fates or Awakening to Three Houses. It's nice to see those extra layers here, because I was starting to think we were going to be a little bit too one note, and to see some nuance back in it is good.
Well, and that even extends down to the support conversations. So in a couple different ways. The first way being in Awakening, and especially Fates, it would be like, hey, you want to train?
Train. Let's
and
train.
You're like, yeah, let's train. And then it's like, wow, you're good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It was so incredibly boring.
And then you get to the support, and it's like, let's train together forever. I love you.
Yeah, it was such bull. And
there's a lot more to those conversations now. The one I love picking on him because I thought I would hate him. Big, the muscle head, kind of like the quiet, strong type, and it's like super tragic. It's Full Metal Alchemist. I'm getting vibes of like the slaughter in Ishval. And there's just a lot to that. Some of the characters do hate him because they do believe that his nation was responsible for some pretty bad things that I won't say what it is, but then others are like, no, I think there's more to it, and others couldn't care less, which kind of brings me to the second point of not every pairing is like building towards a relationship.
Yeah, it's really refreshing. Like some of the characters you can only get C and B, some of them you can get to C, B, A, and so by limiting how many conversations they have, it sort of gives them a chance to actually write meaningful conversations, because they're not trying to force them to a point where it gets romantic or whatever. They're not trying to force anything. It's just, hey, let's have these two characters talk, reveal something interesting about themselves, and almost all the conversations end up being really interesting because of that.
They're so much better.
And
they can be antagonistic a lot of times.
Yeah.
You'll have something between like Felix and almost anyone, and it'll be like, I hate you. And then that's the end. It's like their support went up.
Yeah.
You can be like
Yay.
rivals.
Yeah.
Ferdinand and Hubert were like that. So very early on in my house's playthrough, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
The first level is they don't like each other and they agree they don't like each other and they walk off and it goes do-do-do-do-do-do. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's stuff like that is just, it's really
And
good.
there's a good mix of, and then there's a lot of a guy and a girl will just be friends.
Yeah.
And that's great too. So it's not, they have to have a path to where everyone is interested romantically
Yeah.
or even friendly. So I definitely love that.
And they sort of had to do that for Awakening because of the kids system. They had to make it possible that everybody could hook up so that you could have like every possible combination of kids. I'm glad they didn't go back to that well.
Yeah.
And they could have maybe there's a time skip in the game. It's not a big enough time skip to justify kids, especially ones that fight alongside you. But the point being, they could have done a longer time skip and gone down the same road as Awakening. But I'm glad they didn't. I liked Awakening for doing that, but I don't think I want to see it again.
Well, I don't need it every time.
Yeah.
And if they can think of a cool way to do it in the future, I know Genealogy of the Holy War did it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Naturally, there are no time travel involved, and that was
Yep.
cool.
That was
But
really cool.
I like seeing new things, and I'm glad they, on that budget they got from the mobile game, they're putting a little more into the writing and the relationships, among other things.
Yeah.
Anything else about characters?
They're great. They well, I guess that starts to get into the leveling system, but they all feel pretty different. That you can take them in a lot of different paths, and really, so far, I've liked all of them, which
I like
is
all the
shocking to
characters.
me.
Yeah.
There have been a few where I'm like, I don't like you,
Yeah.
and then I like them, and sometimes they become like my favorite, like to do. I
I had a really hard time with his name.
To do.
Yeah, the first time I ran into him on the campus, I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What's your name?
Lindhart is another one.
Yeah.
Didn't like him at all. Didn't like his design. Thought he was boring. But then he's like Shikamaru from Naruto, where he's just like this
Oh, yeah.
genius, but just doesn't care. He has one thing that interests him, and if you're not that, he's like, whatever. I can't be bothered with this, and
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah.
I like the faculty members too. They kind of grew on me because at first I was like, whatever. I'm not going to pay that much attention to them. But the fact that you can recruit them later on, and the fact that they also have more layers, to me made it more interesting than it needed to be. Because I think a lot of people are going to stick with their original house crew for the most part, and they might mix in a few people from outside, whether it's other houses or the faculty. But I actually think it's interesting because you end up having this problem of choice, and I haven't really felt like that in past Fire Emblems. At least the last couple, where you have more say over who's on your squad. I usually have my crew, and it doesn't change much.
Yeah.
And here there's enough options and enough differences between them that I'm like, yeah, okay. Like if I need a guest character or something, I might go, yeah, okay, you know what, you join me and let's see how you rock. And then I like them and I go, okay, I'm gonna make sure I recruit you later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also one of the best ways to recruit them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, mission assistants. Yeah, well, I'll just say later in the game, I cared about what happened to these characters, and I was like legitimately saddened
Me
because they
too.
don't, in most cases, pull many punches.
No, it's brutal.
Fates, I liked Fates. I'm talking a lot of bad stuff about it.
It's fine.
It's fine. But one of the things I didn't like was you're fighting, you're supposedly making this huge choice. At the end of the day, you spare everyone.
Yep.
And it's like, well, and half the time they like join you after, and in this, that doesn't happen.
Yep.
And I'll leave it at that, but it's very real and it's very sad.
Yep. It hurt me a lot.
Yeah.
Which
have a
is going to make
feeling-
my other playthroughs really hard when I'm not Golden Deer.
Yeah.
So.
I have a feeling I know where it's going, and that's fine. I'll murder the other children. I don't care.
You think
Oh my
you don't
God.
care.
They should have listened better in school.
I mean, that's true. But
They had a chance.
when you kill them and then they give you, because of course they have a line, because when they're your kids they have a line, so of course they do, and it's always like, I don't want to die out here alone. It's like,
Oh God, no.
If only I'd chosen your house, this wouldn't have happened.
yep.
Let's talk mechanics. There's a few different ways you can categorize this. Some of them are just in the leveling system, like you mentioned, which I think is a big plus. I like having the options to sort of tweak people, and it's not just like, okay, Virian's an archer. He shoots a bow well.
Yeah.
You can take him to another class that also has a bow, and that's about it. Instead, you can really mix things up. Multiple characters have like 3-4 different paths that I think are viable for each. And it also helps you kind of mold them so that they fit your team the best way possible.
Well, so I want to, and to get to that point, I want to start with, I think, the most unique part of Three Houses, which is the whole school system. So a couple new things. One is it's free roam for the first time ever.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a plus.
Which is a plus. Ultimately, it's fine. I noticed there's not a whole lot that the free roam adds. That like I know Persona 3, for example, you just kind of choose like the location on an interface and you just go there.
Yeah.
Once you do the remake, yeah.
I felt like really this could have been the same thing. It didn't add a whole lot on that respect, but the idea that you're going through and there's different activities to do, a la Persona, in a given day. You actually have time units, and each big thing costs a time unit to do. That was really great, and you can spend, and then the other part is teaching the students. They each have, God, how many different skills are in that game? 13.
Somewhere thereabouts.
Like
A lot.
magic, writing, heavy armor, lance, sword, bow, like all the weapons.
Leadership, yeah.
And you can train the students down, and that helps you specialize what you want them to be good at. Some of them have budding talents, which are something you wouldn't think they'd be good at, but then when you invest in it, it unlocks some cool perk. So it makes you want to be like, okay, well, maybe this person's actually going to be a totally different class. So that was great. It was very like Harry Potter. It was like I was playing, and I know I'm not the first one to make that comparison, but
Yeah.
it's cool.
I really liked it a lot. I adore the school stuff. I think it's so much fun. And it's so different, and it's such a nice change from what we've had before.
You ended up seeing pretty quickly that once you explored the campus, which was, I think, fun for the first couple months because you're walking around, seeing things, seeing how well built out it is, eventually you just start menuing everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Me
So-
too. I don't run anywhere anymore.
Yeah, so
I
to
just
Shaun's
fast
point,
travel.
it's effectively kind of like what P3 became in the
Yeah.
remake, where you could just jump to places. And it's probably better that way. I would not have wanted to run around the campus every single month just to get to certain characters, especially once it expands and you start opening new wings and stuff. It's like, okay, I don't need to run everywhere to talk to every single person I need to talk to this month. So that was a smart decision by them, but it does kind of make it so it feels menu-y towards the end, and you're already in a million menus in this game. You do it for the free roaming, effectively. You do it for the training, as Shaun mentioned. You do it when you're looking how to set up for battle. You do it when you're shopping for your inventory.
Yeah.
It's extremely menu heavy. I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do think if they hadn't put in quick jump, I would not have liked the school overall.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
That's true, because I, like, right before they added the free roam, I was like, oh my god, it's literally taking me, like, all day just to run around and not get lost and find people and talk to them, and like, oh my god, this is such a time sink. And then they're like, oh, look, jump to all the places. I'm like,
It's
thank
pretty
god.
quick. Like,
And
the load
it's-
screens are not long.
Yeah.
And here's a list of characters that are here. You're not guessing. You're not roaming about a few different spots they might be.
because there were a few times where I'm like, I don't know where people are.
There's a picture of their face. You want to find them? Here they
Yep.
are. Go there.
Mm-hmm.
But the class thing was so good and addictive. Like getting them, because as they get to new ranks with the weapons, obviously they unlock new abilities, new proficiencies. And actually, the skills are what opens up the classes. It's not like it was in games past where you get to a certain level and then you can do this.
Yeah,
class.
it's specifically skill.
The classes are
related.
like they're like you have to take an exam to fit with the school system, and you have to be proficient in the skills required for that class.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets really addictive. Of like, oh, I'm so close to getting X character into the class that I want.
Yeah.
What can I do to get them there? And
I definitely passed on some percentages that I should not have passed on.
yeah, me too.
It's a welcome switch too, because when you had the seals in past games, take them from 20 back to 1 and put them in an advanced class or just a different adjacent class, then you started to have to deal with, okay, am I really sure I want to do this? How committed am I? Because once you commit, you're stuck. And also you had to start thinking about, okay, how many characters do I have that have gone into the advanced classes? Because now they're going to start being like experience siphons. If I have too many, my lower level characters aren't worth bringing. If I have too few, maybe they die. You know, there's all these little small consequences that, well, I mean, maybe people liked the strategy of it, but to me, I've much preferred the freedom that it felt like this system has.
There's almost a lot more to it, and that's what makes it simpler.
Yeah.
In a way, it's just like, okay, I'm not locked into anything. You don't go back down a level. There's not a meaningful level cap. I think it's like 99. So
something
you
ridiculous.
just keep
where I'm
going.
like,
You
oh my
will
god.
have beaten the game long before that. And so that was nice too. Because
Yeah.
I know there's a point in Fire Emblem where like you stop gaining experience and I had the hick kid that I can't think of his name now. Donald got stuck at like level 1 of a low class because he had reached the cap and I didn't know it.
Oh.
So there's none of that here, and I think it benefits from it a lot.
I don't have a whole lot else about the school itself. I think it's a smart system. Again, I don't know if I want to see it in the next game. Maybe something similar but different would be fine. But for this game itself, I think it's very, very strong.
I just think it's brilliant. You know, like you would think in a game like this, you're the student. But you're the teacher, and you're getting your class up in their proficiencies.
And it's such a good way to bond with your characters too, because you're not like a random tactician tagging along with the prince or whoever. Like, you're actually responsible for their growth.
Yeah.
And you're influencing it directly as their teacher. I'm like, oh my God, I love it.
Yeah.
It's such a small little change that you wouldn't think would matter, but like it does.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. I wouldn't mind seeing it. Maybe not this exact thing. You're in another school.
You're a teacher.
Yeah. But I definitely enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
I think that's a good point, though. Like, I felt more connected because of the student teacher thing than I did in past games, especially Fates. Not to keep dogging on it, but like in Fates, I hated my sister because I think Camille's one of the worst Fire Emblem characters ever created, and I didn't really love the rest of my immediate family. So that meant my core crew was useless to me. Some side characters were fine, but I didn't like their relationships. Here, it's like even characters I didn't necessarily like, I felt this mentorship where it's like, okay, well, you don't have your shit together, but I'll help.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for. I'm a teacher. Come on over. I'll train you. We'll do some stuff. Whatever. We can work through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Fates, I actually didn't use any of the family members.
Me neither.
I used all their side people.
Exactly. I was
Yeah,
like,
I think
no, get out of here.
Yeah, that was great. And I love that this was essentially Persona meets Fire Emblem, which was, I know they actually had a game.
There was a crossover, but this is honestly what the crossover should have been.
Yeah. And it's excellent. It has room for growth. So I love that they went in this direction, but you could definitely see the limitations, especially in the later months. In Persona, I spent like 100 hours on one playthrough. At the end, almost every day, I was still like, okay, what can I do to maximize my day? There's so many different options. Mm-hmm. In this one, by the end, there's not enough variety. So you reach it, you have like 10 time units at the end.
I'm experiencing that problem right now, actually, where I have like 10 points. I'm like, what do I do with all these points?
Yeah.
I guess I'll eat a whole bunch and then maybe do some faculty training, maybe.
It's literally faculty
tournament.
training, eating. And then, honestly, the advanced drills, there's a limit to that because once you outrank your students, they can't teach you anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
when you have a skill level higher than them, they have nothing left for you.
Oh.
So then it's like choir. There's like choir, tournaments, eating, and drills.
Yeah.
Whereas Persona, I can't even begin to say all the different things you could do that take time. So it's a step in the right direction. I was glad to see it. I thought it was great. But I would say for a sequel, that's definitely a room to improve.
Yeah.
And that's a problem that Persona faced where the beginning is similar, because in this game I felt the same way where it's like, you have 2 time units, and I'm like, I would like more than that.
Yeah.
But then by the end, you get 9, 10, you go, okay, I have nothing left. There's nothing to do. I've done these activities a lot before, and now they're also starting to become useless. Persona runs into that a little bit, especially in Golden, and I'm worried about Royal for 5, where like towards the end of the calendar, at the end of the game, you finally start getting to that point. But even then, they have a multitude of other activities where I think, Fire Emblem needs to take this, and if they're going to bring it back, expand on it more.
Yep.
Even if they're more like harmless ones, so towards the end of the game, you're not worried about grinding out stats anymore because you've got those benefits, so you do more like socially oriented ones or something else where there's like a little more of a cap to it where you can keep going back but seeing new material.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Persona sets the template for this that I would like to see it taken to another level. But
I almost think Persona has too many things sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah.
But I would take that over too few.
Yeah.
Because, I think I did the batting cages once ever in Persona 5, but I liked that they were there.
Yeah.
Some people wanted to grind out stats that way or some prizes from it. They could. Great. No problem. Whereas here, it's like you're going to do one of like 5 things. And you're probably going to do all of them. So it doesn't really affect your choices that much. You're not going to feel like you have a drastically different playthrough than other players, other than what house you chose.
Well, then I almost want like gardening and like the mini games. I almost want them to take time, and maybe that means giving you more units in the beginning because again, you start with only 2.
Yeah.
But if that took time, I almost feel like that would be a little more
That's true. That would
rewarding.
add to it. Yeah.
And I would, because I hate reaching the end of the day and being like, well, I don't want to wander the map for drills. I have 5 units left. Am I really just ending the day with 5?
know.
Mhm.
Yep.
But,
Same
yeah.
problem.
Because it feels wasteful after everything that the game has kind of drilled into you to that point. It's like you can spend your points, do all this stuff, do everything you need to do, and you're like, I don't have anything I need to do.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Graphics, big step up. Obviously, it's nice to see characters in 3D again, especially in vivid, vibrant 3D with like interesting backgrounds
And
and cool
feet.
scenes and more of an anime style. There's nothing against like Radiant Dawn, but I didn't find myself graphically engaged by the GameCube and Wii games all that much.
Yeah.
And the 3DS ones were fine, especially for the platform. But it's really cool to see all these characters fully modeled and in 3D and with active battle scenes. Like that's all a pretty strong point, and I like the soundtrack a lot overall.
The soundtrack is really good.
The soundtrack's really good. I like the soundtrack. Weirdly, near the end of the game, I don't like the songs as much
Yeah.
as I did. Like right there in the middle, they had a few different ones that were like, oh, it's getting me hyped.
Yep.
So the music is good. The graphics are great because it looks good, but it also better communicates, I think, the vision of Fire Emblem. Because for years, I've thought this isn't really like when we say army, it's not just me and these 10 characters. Like we're like leading little battalions, right? That's what's implied. But you never see anyone. They never really mention it.
Yeah.
So here, they mention it. Like you'll have a conversation with Caspar, and he'll be like, "Yeah, my units, they listen to me and like whatever." But then you see them. You actually see them when it zooms up. All your little people
Yep.
and the
Your little
battlefields.
battalions.
Yeah, it feels
Yeah.
like a war, and not just like a small skirmish where my 10 characters are fighting your 10 characters for the fate of the kingdom.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I actually really like the battalions. I didn't take a ton of advantage of them at first because I didn't really like 100% know the best way to do it or whatever. But by the end, I was like, yeah, this is cool. Plus, it adds something. So.
Yeah, they were okay. I'd like to maybe see them fleshed out a little bit more. I only use them for monsters.
That's true. I do specifically use them for like gambits, and that's it. But
Yeah, which I don't know. What did you guys think of the monsters? I liked it. I thought it was a
liked
change of
them a
pace.
lot. It'd be nice if that one paralog in particular wasn't so difficult with like 20 of them.
I just
That
did
was
that
a
the
little
other
much.
day. I was like so mad. I left items on the field because I was like,
Yeah.
I have an opening to win this thing right now. I just got to go for it because I'm being overwhelmed by 15 monsters at once.
Yeah,
Yep.
get out of there.
It's rough, but overall I do like fighting the monsters. It's fun. It's different than just like, oh, let's fight a dragon for the final boss. Like, oh, there's actually like big monsters, and
Yeah.
you can get rewards and stuff, and
Yeah, I
it
think
changes it up. And it's nice.
conceptually, I think it works overall. I could use some tweaking. I'm not necessarily sure that's what I want going forward, but like you said, I think it's a good change of pace. And as far as the like battalions go, I think the feel of them is more important than what they actually do. I actually like their balancing overall. Like they provide you a decent amount of stats, especially once you've leveled with them a bit. But nothing that feels overpowered or like you need to rely on them. It's more like hey, this is a handy bonus, so you're going to want to invest in it. But it's not like I'm going to spend all my time micromanaging my battalions, which is the last thing I need to do in a game that already has 350 menus. I just kind of stuck with ones on certain people, like dispatch them based on what would match their stats. And like I said, in battle, it feels nice because you see this whole squad run in when you're doing your attack. And it feels much more like between that and the fact that we're just a little bit older in this game. I mean, the students are already a decent age when you start, and then there's the time jump. It just feels more like what should be happening in war. I have nothing against 12-year-olds that were characters at certain points, but it was always very discordant.
Yeah.
Like, here's Noe. She's a 12-year-old who's actually a 1,000-year-old. She's going to fight these big grown-up soldiers with weapons. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, I guess. I don't. No,
yeah,
thank
no,
you.
I like that a lot. And actually, I used it to balance a little bit in a way where I didn't use them. And so it balanced it for me because another flaw that I would say on this game is it was way too damn easy. I'm playing on hard, and only near the last maybe third or even quarter does it start getting difficult. And that's where I find it like thrilling when I'm playing this game, is when it's like hard. I have to really think about how I'm going to go through this map.
Yeah.
And every decision is kind of difficult because I'm going to get surrounded or what have you.
Yeah.
That's where I love this game. I know
Yeah.
some people are saying they're playing on normal, and it's like, it's not even like, I just send my characters out. I don't think at all. I say, you go attack, and then it's done. And Yeah, so that needed. Hopefully, in the future, I should be able to play it normal and still get a good challenge from it. So I would hope to see that change.
I don't understand. And maybe this is just two recent examples clouding my judgment, but like, why are these difficulties getting easier? Why is Kingdom Hearts 3 having to patch in a difficulty setting after its release to make it challenging for hardcore players? Why was Three Houses set to do it after release? Like, why are these not launch things? Especially when they're optional. I'm not saying I want only the hard difficulties, but it doesn't seem like it's that hard to balance for different difficulties to challenge, especially your more hardcore dedicated fans. Especially
when, like, I would think on normal you keep it difficult, which is what the series is really known for. But that's why you put the casual in. Because then you lose it. It's still as hard as it ever was, but it's not so punishing.
Yeah.
But like this, from what I've heard on normal, and Michaela, maybe you can say, you just go through and one-shot everything.
Pretty much. I mean, there's really only been one very, very, very difficult battle for me, and then everything else. And I'm playing on Classic, and at first I was like, I don't want to play on Classic. It's going to be so hard. Difficult decisions and whatever, and it's like it's not that bad. Like, I forget I'm on Classic mode half the time.
Because you can, that's another thing. Especially because you can rewind time now.
Yeah.
I would almost expect the game to be even a little bit harder on the default. Yep. Because you have so many ways to back it up.
There have been situations where I've had a character who's been like almost dead. I'm like, oh no, they're going to get ganged up on. And then they don't. And I'm like, that seems like an AI flaw. I feel like that enemy should definitely have gone after that character. Right. And they don't do it. And I'm like, okay, that's weird, but
yeah,
I don't know.
The rewind mechanic's cool.
I like it a lot.
They kind of stressed in the beginning, like, oh, you're only going to have so many of these. And it's like, okay, and that is true. But if you're the type of player who needs more than that many, then you're probably fucking up anyways.
And honestly, I use it now. Like, a character will miss, and I'll be like, rewind.
Yeah.
Try again. Try something else. Because I have like 12 or more now.
Yeah, I do too. And like, there have been times where like I'll have like a character talk to a certain character to get some specific dialogue. And then I'll rewind time and like do something else just to see the different dialogue options because I'm like, this is where I'm at now. It's not hard, but
So that's cool. It's small, but I really do appreciate, even if it maybe is part of the reason it's so easy, the lines. So you'll move your character in.
Those are so
and you'll have
handy.
a line showing who's going to attack that character.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's really nice.
And
it takes the grid to another level.
And it changes as you're selecting where they go, not after you've committed or something like that.
Yeah,
so
you can
like,
move it around and see
like
there's 3, and then if you move it here, it's only 1, and like
if I move to this square, now this one attacks this person, and this one attacks that one. So that's how I want to do it. Split them up. Like all that is really smart. There's a lot of little quality of life increases between some of the ones that we mentioned with the mechanics and just some of the graphical stuff. I mean, it's very easy to toggle on all sorts of information if you want it. The rewind feature is nice. It all comes back to the same problem I have, which is, again, with all these mechanics in place to protect yourself against difficulty spikes, why is there not a harder one available from the start?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even like a New Game Plus thing.
No.
It's going to come in a patch. Again, same as Kingdom Hearts 3, where people played on Proud and they went, eh? Did all of us play on Proud for Kingdom Hearts 3?
I think we did.
I beat the hardest boss and the secret boss on my first try. That should not have happened. I had the ultimate weapon.
Like that's bullcrap. But
what do you mean? You don't believe me?
Well, I believe you, but like I had to try like 20 times for that.
I will say I got low a couple times. This is not a Kingdom Hearts 3 review, but just the way that it worked out when he paused to like between attacks, it was the first try.
Yeah,
I didn't really even want it. I kind of wanted what do you like to gut it out, but it didn't happen.
Yeah.
I mean, I died once, and it was on the ship.
Yeah.
I didn't die any other time in Proud mode. When I had a Keyblade in my hand, I died 0 times in Kingdom Hearts 3 on Proud mode on the first playthrough, and that shouldn't happen. It's the same thing here. If you're on the hardest difficulty on Classic and not Casual, I mean, Fire Emblem was sort of known for being a dick back in its earlier games, especially the first ones we got in the States, where occasionally like 5 enemies would show up out of nowhere, and you wouldn't have any idea they were coming because it was your first time on a mission, and they would just beat the shit out of somebody and they would die.
Yep.
And you'd be like, well, great, now I have to start the mission over or something. I'm not saying that felt good or that I want that to come back specifically, but there's almost too many ways to circumvent it now.
Yeah.
I don't know how to fix that specifically, but a couple ways is at least offer a higher difficulty to make people grind it out, even with those options at their disposal.
Yeah, and I find myself, I don't really love like variant difficulty, but maybe there's a way to improve that where you get stronger and more powerful and the enemies in response kind of do too. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm gonna play the new. Probably not Lunatic. Lunatic is a little crazy with like random crits all the time, but maddening I think sounds really fun.
I don't even. I must be behind on my news. I need to look at what that is.
I
Maddening.
would not play Lunatic on Classic.
No.
That's too much rage.
Yeah,
for me.
that doesn't sound fun.
I don't have enough time to play games anymore. I mean, I have time to play them, but not like I used to where I can just sit there and grind out one battle for 5 hours, bash my head against a wall.
Yeah.
That's not happening anymore.
Speaking of time, what did you guys think? This game is long. It's like nearly Persona 5 long. Between wandering around the monastery, doing all the side battles and paralogs and all of that, and just the battles themselves are much longer. What did you think? I've heard some people in the community thought it was too much.
I love it. It doesn't feel long when I play it. Like, I looked at my timestamp the other day and I have like 81 hours. I was like, oh my God, it doesn't feel like I've played that long. And now that I'm almost done, I'm like, oh no, I don't want it to end. But I love that we basically get like 3 giant RPG games in like one actual game. Like, it's huge. And I'm really excited knowing that I'm going to have a game that I'm not going to beat in a week and then be done with. I'm going to have a game that I'm going to play for 2 or 3 months, and I'm still going to be getting stuff out of it. I think it's great.
I just played Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which I think is maybe a 20, at most 30-hour game. And I'm like, when is this going to be done? And I'm at 100 hours now in Fire Emblem, and I'm like, still playing.
Yeah.
Still having a great time.
It's kind of in the eye of the beholder, right? Because it'd be hypocritical of me to say I think it's a little bit too long at this current pace with all the in-between stuff you do, and the battles also kind of being back to the old school 3D style games where it takes you an hour sometimes. But Trails of Cold Steel 3 is coming out in a couple months. That's probably going to be 90 hours. I don't care.
Yeah.
It could be 150. I'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
I'm here for every single minute of it. So I guess it just depends on how much you love the franchise. I can see people's complaint on it. I don't think it's a deal breaker by any means, but I can see why people who, especially those that only played Awakening, might be like, whoa, wait, what? This is like twice as long as that. What happened?
I do. I think it would be more of a flaw if they didn't offer so many ways to skip it.
That's
so you
the
can
next thing I was
do
gonna say,
manual
too.
instruction. You can do seminars to just pass by the free days really quick.
Yeah.
You can stick to kind of the main battles or even just the main and paralog, and you're going to be shaving off a ton of time. And still, if you're playing on normal, you're still going to be fine.
Yeah.
Maybe even on hard, you'd be fine. Maybe not in great shape, but so I appreciated all those little touches because they were aware of like, this is a huge game. If you don't want to manually talk to every character every day, just we've offered you some ways to kind of speed it up a bit.
Yep.
So, is it ranking time? Is there anything I've missed category-wise? We hit the big 3.
One thing I want to say, the storylines I think we touched on, there are 3 different ones. Some seem like they got a little more tension than others. Some seem like they might be a little more canon than others. But like Michaela said, you're really getting 3 games in one.
Yeah.
That's great because the New Game Plus system might be the best I've ever played. You start with a bunch of the perks from the previous playthrough. There are statues that you can upgrade with renown points, it's called when you do certain tasks. That all stays, and it allows you to quickly level up your stuff in the next playthrough. So you can start the second playthrough with like max professor level. So you have 10 time units from the very beginning.
Yeah.
The shops have all their items from the very beginning. So it's like you're starting on like God mode. You have all these cheats, and it makes it really fun. If I had to play through it and start over, I probably would not be on my second playthrough right now. But it really offers a lot of incentives to come back and experience the other playthroughs. It's just a great system.
The question is, and you may not know this till you get there, but will you do the third?
Well, I think I will wait until the new difficulty comes out and maybe some new classes just to try out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
planning on doing all 3.
I don't
As
know if I
well.
will. We'll see. I'm not as far as you guys, so we'll see if by the end it's caught me a little more. But I don't know.
My big recommendation, based on what I know from the other ones, is do Dimitri's plot first. I almost wish they had said, like, because you choose your house, you really don't know anything about what you're getting into other than some of the characters. I wish they had said Dimitri is kind of the straightforward, almost like canon playthrough. Claude is kind of fleshes out a lot of the side story. So if you're interested in a lot of the politics and this other dimension of this alliance, go with him. And then for a completely different viewpoint, go with Edelgard. Like that would have been cool. Some guidance at the beginning to let me know what am I getting into. I think would have been really good. Because I would absolutely recommend Dimitri for your first playthrough.
And for me, I am not going down that path. He was my second choice because I don't care about Claude.
What? Excuse you?
Yeah, you and I don't have the same taste in men, and that's become clear the more we play through RPGs. I thought about going with Dimitri. I liked some of the characters in Edelgard's house a little bit more, but I do think if I have any complaints about this game, and there are not very many, the length is a minor, very, very, very minor one. The one big one for me is when you make that choice. They give you almost nothing in the way of what this means. You have a couple like lines from each character. You can go around and talk to some of the characters in each one, at least have some idea. But the fact remains, you're kind of going in like, okay, I'm already being bombarded with mechanics. I don't really know what's happening in the story, and now you're asking me to choose between these three houses. And it's a big decision. At the time, you're kind of going off of nothing.
Yeah.
I wish they'd either waited. Because, I mean, let's be honest, those first couple months, you're still roaming about the school. You can still talk to all the characters from all the classes. There's not a whole lot of delineation between them at that point. It feels like they should have moved that back a couple of months when you had a much better basis of understanding.
Yeah, I would have been fine with that. And again, something like, if you want to make difficult decisions or something, go with Edelgard. But like, I get now that I'm more than halfway through Edelgard's, and Dimitri is my first one. I'm like, Dimitri is like, I feel like the classic experience, like probably how this game was like meant to be played. But then you have these other two houses that are great for what they do, and I'm definitely glad I'm playing them. But a little more guidance in the beginning would have been good.
It's not a deal breaker, but when you play RPGs, what's the thing that happens when you start a new game? You get a difficulty list, and the difficulty list kind of gives you a little short sentence, right? Like, this is for experienced RPG players who want some difficulty, and this is for that. So those little one-line descriptions you mentioned as far as what the implication of the story might be would have been much appreciated.
Yep.
That's true. Because I feel like the Golden Deer route might be the most different from the other two.
Yeah.
And I had no idea going in. I appreciate it. I think it's cool, but... well, yeah, so it's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it works out because it's such a good game at its core, but a little bit more. Like, I feel like I really lucked out because I love Dimitri's storyline.
Yeah,
but a lot of people don't like him. They're like, oh, he's such an edgelord or whatever.
I don't even,
But
like, I haven't played it yet, but I think he's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what I've seen of him. But
so now that I got to talk about New Game Plus, yeah, I think we can...
I will say, I like the beginning of the game just in general, and I don't think they throw too much at you, but boy, it's like, okay, so I'm just some person, don't know a lot about myself. Here's my dad, here's these kids, and I'm running the school.
I did like
I
that
am
too.
in
I was
hour
like, okay.
2, and I'm the most important person in this school. They just turn over the reins to me, and we're not even going to worry about it. Now, there's some story and reasons for why that's the case. I know that, but still, it's like, boy,
pretty fast.
You go 0 to 60 real fucking fast here, don't you?
Yeah.
I don't even know if it's a criticism. It was just kind of like striking. Looking back, especially once you get into the grind, the monthly kind of rotation and stuff, you look back and you go, holy cow, we got into this fast.
Yeah, and maybe some of that time could have been better spent teaching you how to use the menus.
Oh my God. Okay, I literally did not know how to use the menus until this. I'm in the second to last month. I am like a month away from beating my route. And I only just now figured out that I can go into a menu to change my abilities and my combat arts because it's freaking hidden. And
you go into the inventory menu to change your combat arts, abilities,
battalions,
reclass your character. It doesn't make any. And once you know it's there, it's like, oh, good. You're kind of glad it's all under one window. But the fact that it's titled inventory and it's never explained is like,
it's never explained, and it was a little frustrating because a bunch of my characters had stupid abilities equipped from like the beginning of the game that I didn't realize I could take off.
Yeah, and maybe it was explained, but like really quick and clearly not well enough because, and it was not intuitive. So there are a couple overall menus work great, but there's a couple intuitive issues that could have been ironed out.
So I'm only a few months in, and if this is an easy answer, you can make fun of me for asking this question, but can you reposition units before a battle starts?
Yep,
yes.
You go to map.
You go to map in the wheel.
I haven't found how to do that yet.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure units is how you used to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, but
and
now there's
it's map.
Map. It's like right next to the units icon. Yeah.
Because I tried for a bit, and then eventually I just gave up. I'm like, well, wherever they're standing, I'm going to make it work. Here we go.
I'm glad there's no recording of me like playing the beginning of the game because I did a weird thing with the camera, and I was like stuck trying to get out of the camera view, and I was like, oh my god, it was bad. It was really embarrassing.
Once I hadn't figured out the camera yet, and I think that second fight, and I hit a button, I think at some point that made it like super zoom in.
Yeah, that's the one.
And I didn't know how I had done it, and it's a neat view for some different information and like a different look, but I had to spend like 2 minutes being like, all right, what the hell did I hit? How do I get out of this? This is not what I'm used to. What's happening?
Yep.
I feel less bad that I did that now.
And I feel like we're reasonably smart, experienced players.
Yeah.
So God knows how much of the stuff other players are missing if they're newer to this or if they have no clue.
Yeah.
Poor folks. And maybe this isn't the series for them, and that's fine. But still, it's like, damn. I don't know what they could have done. They give you a tutorial on almost everything. It's just there's so many in the beginning. I think people are inevitably going to miss something. It's almost impossible not to.
Yeah, they throw a lot at you, which I appreciate because you get going, like we said, really quick.
Yeah.
You get into the meat of the game with no frills, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
So, Michaela, why don't you go first?
Why?
I had a talk with Michaela before the recording to behind the veil.
To prevent the 10?
And I said, we're professionals. We're not just cheerleaders. I said, people are actually more likely to listen to your opinion if you taper it with some like flaws. Temper it with some flaws.
So what I would like you to do is give it a 10 and look him dead in the eyes while you do it.
With that said, Golden Deer, 10 out of 10.
Motherfucker.
No, okay, so in all seriousness, I guess I will rank like the Golden Deer route, I guess, my impressions of it. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Because I really like all the characters. And I like the story in the sense that, so there's like this conflict that the other two routes are very much like, that's kind of the center of their campaigns. And this story is a little separate from that, which I like, which gives it an opportunity to explore some other stuff. Without getting into too much spoilers, I feel like the pacing of some of that other side stuff could have been done better. Because like I'm in the second to last chapter and we're like only now addressing some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, it was trickling. It was, throughout. I mean, it was there, but it wasn't super front and center. So I wish there was maybe a little more time for that. But yeah, I really like the characters. I really like the gameplay, and I really like the story, and the lore and the world building and all that.
The lore's really good.
I love it so much. It's so good. It's just super interesting, and I like what this route does with it, like uncovering the secrets of everything. It's kind of cool. So
I'm gonna give Dimitri's route and kind of the game 9.6. I thought it was very, very good. I appreciated some pretty bold steps in a new direction for the series. I mean, really a lot. They could have just done the free roam, or just done more fleshed out supports, or just done the school, but they did all of it and 3 routes at the same time.
yeah,
and really pulled it off. There are some bumps preventing it from being a 10, areas where I can see obvious improvement, but 9.6 for Dimitri's, especially because I can think of 2 different cutscenes that you didn't really get in the other routes. So it just seems like there's a little more attention given on his route.
Yeah.
Playing through Edelgard's now, still very good. I mean, it's probably like a 9.0. Still excellent. Claude's probably going to be like a 9.3.
Yay,
so, like,
best boy.
Average, like 9.4.
Yay.
That's not really how the average works, but that's where the game stands for me.
Yeah.
This is tough for me because I haven't beaten it yet. So I'm going to give it a tentative 8.5 and maybe revisit it down the road because it's better than an NR or some nonsense where I don't even commit to anything. I'm at least far enough to judge it on its merits by what I've seen so far. I think that Edelgard's crew is a little too serious at times, and they open up at some points, and I really like Petra. She's probably my favorite.
She's my wife.
Aww.
I don't remember if she's
Yeah, she's
possible
great.
for me. Dorothea is and Edelgard is. I don't know if Petra is.
Oh,
'cause
you're
I'm female.
a girl.
Yeah,
In your
because
fr-
Oh, that's right.
because boy Violet's hair was too stupid for me to possibly take. It's funny. It's interesting. We haven't even mentioned their name
Oh yeah.
at all until this point, but it's sort of a self-insert, so it's fine. Whatever.
Yep.
I think there's 2 main things in going in favor of this. One is sort of the stuff we touched on earlier, just the blending of old and new in a way that kind of helps both like the new approach, where like some hardcore fans didn't like Awakening and Fates and vice versa. This is kind of a nice blending of both. And more importantly, because if you are interested in the three house approach and you want to play them all, it's all in one game. You don't
Yeah.
have to buy
You don't
separate
have to buy.
games.
That's actually
That was
really
huge.
true. That
Yeah.
was really nice.
Which definitely makes it more likely that I will revisit these in a New Game Plus than it had been if I had to, buy both Birthright and Conquest, just to say one example. Because I was not going to do that again.
How easily could they have done 3 different games or even 4? Because if you remember, there were 3 different cartridges for Fates.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. This is one game. You get all of it. It's on the Switch. It's returning to consoles. There's so much about this game that I love. I don't know if it'll end up having the same place in my heart that Awakening did.
Yeah.
Even though it's a better game than Awakening, there was just a lot that I loved in Awakening, kind of breaking some new ground for the series. But I really like this game a lot. Definitely a Game of the Year contender for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of the uphill battle for me, is that Awakening hit me at just the right way. Had either of you played a Fire Emblem game before Awakening?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't know if you had played.
I played a bunch since,
You played
but
a ton
yeah.
since.
Yeah.
I had played the first 2 before Awakening. I had gotten ROMs of both and played the 2 original ones and really liked 7, whatever they call it, Blazing Sword, but I don't remember what the hell.
The one with Lynn?
Yeah,
That
Lynn
was
and
excellent.
Yeah.
Ellawood.
Hector's
and
my boy.
Hector, yeah.
He's great.
And I liked that one quite a bit. So I went from those into Awakening, and between that and just having a lot of time to play the game at the time, I don't think anything's ever going to catch Awakening the way it did just in that moment, whether or not it's a better game. So that's kind of unfair to put on 3 houses, but still,
Yeah.
that I don't think anything can unseat Awakening. We'll see. I would love to be wrong about that, but that's going to be an awfully tall order.
Yeah. But with
Yeah.
that said, I loved it, and it's probably the best Fire Emblem game that's ever been made. I've played quite a few now, and this is takes all the best elements of the ones that I loved before, except the kids. But we kind of established we didn't really want to see that again.
Yeah.
It's fine on Awakening. It can kind of stay
Yep.
on Awakening.
Yeah,
So,
maybe
Yeah.
a couple more games from now they can bring it back in some new way.
yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah. I think so.
Well, that is the end of our Fire Emblem 3 Houses review. There's some housekeeping to do before we close up shop here. There's no episode next week. We're taking off Labor Day week because we're all going to be in Phoenix for some of, if not most of the week. So the next episode is, the 12th, the following Thursday. So that's all. Just listen to past ones in the week in between. There's 404 to choose from. Pick your favorite.
Go back to the beginning. It'll probably be like it's new
Yeah,
for
God.
you and for us.
I haven't listened past the first minute of episode 1 in years now, because I've listened to the first minute for some dumb reason a couple times since then, and I hear it and I turn it off reflexively. It's still not very good. But hey, if you really want to be a hardcore fan, you can go back there and start over.
We always say this, but like probably get around 6 or 7, starts getting better.
Yeah.
And there's another like 30 to 40-ish range point where I think we hit a separate stride.
Yeah.
There's like a
That's
couple
true.
of 2 tiers of improvement, and then by then, I mean, there's highs and lows, and we've gotten better over time in a lot of ways, but those 2 early points are the ones where we went, oh, maybe we're not actually terrible at this. And it turns out
It's
we are.
actually funny now we do a Suns cast sometimes, and it's so much better than our first Suns dedicated podcast.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's terrible.
I also like the Suns. Let me tell you about the basketball. And now it's like, well, when you look at his usage rate and you diversify the portfolio, but I don't know what the fuck. It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, end of this
Basketball
episode.
jargon.
Yeah, those were definitely real basketball terms. That's the end of this episode. In between shows, you can find us on our website, objectionnetwork.com, on social media at Team Objection on Facebook and Twitter, youtube.com/Objection Network for new videos 7 days a week, although the D&D show is on hiatus for a couple weeks, but it's fine. And finally, you can send emails to the show to objectionnetwork@gmail.com. See you next time.